The city and island top 50 here. Okay, Bermuda is number 10. And, you know, when you have a small island like Bermuda, a lot of these storms curve off to the right and to the left, and they don't really have a direct impact on Bermuda. So Bermuda really gets a lot of systems coming close, but not quite within the 60-mile criteria for being considered a brush or a hit. And, you know, this list is subjective, and I get a lot of people that say to me, well, the hurricane gave us a lot of bad weather. Well, if a hurricane was 120 miles away, it's not going to be considered as a brush, and it's not going to make the city database. This list is only for direct impacts from tropical systems, and so if it's 80 or 90 miles away, unless it's an extremely large system, it's not going to be considered as a brush. Like, for example, Hurricane Carla. Somebody was telling me that was a direct hit on Galveston, which it was way south of Galveston, I think by about 120 miles or so, so that was not a direct hit on Galveston. So I cannot give it as a hit on Galveston, even though it was far away. It was a large storm, and it created a lot of high winds and waves and surge up in Galveston, but it was not a direct hit on Galveston. Hollywood, Florida is number 11 here. Every 2.62 years, that's where Derek Sibley lives, down in Hollywood, and that's in southern Broward County. Now, this has been another area that's quiet since 2006. They had Tropical Storm Ernesto pass through there in 2006, but no hurricanes recently at all. In fact, there's been 18 direct hurricane hits since 1871, so that's a pretty high return rate for hurricanes. But number 11 on the list. Let's see any more significant cities here. Can't go over every single one of these. We'll be here all night. Wilmington, North Carolina is another interesting city. That's in southeastern North Carolina, and they're ranked number 18. Now, this has been a city that has been tweaked in the database. I had a guy that was a meteorologist that works in that area apparently, and he and I went back and forth with emails for about a month on what was actually a brush versus a hit. We really narrowed it down. I mean, we got down to the nitty-gritty on wind speeds in Wilmington, North Carolina. So Wilmington is probably, of all these cities that are ranked here, Wilmington is probably the most accurate position of all the cities, with an average return rate of every 2.67 years, and they've been affected 52 times since 1871 by named storms. And they've had about 17 direct hurricane hits since 1871. So Wilmington, I feel very confident about where Wilmington is ranked, but it's a very accurate breakdown of the stats for Wilmington, North Carolina. Key West, Florida, this is another one. Now, Jim Leonard, who's been on the show a few times, he always questions why the Florida Keys locations are not higher up on the list. And believe it or not, the Florida Keys get hit less than the Florida mainland does, the South Florida mainland does. And even though they've had some very horrific hurricanes down in the Florida Keys, like the 1935 hurricane, Hurricane Donna comes to mind, Hurricane George, you know, they've had a lot of significant hurricanes down there, but they don't get hit a lot by named storms. They have been quiet. They had a quiet 2009 hurricane season. They've had direct hits by hurricanes 19 times, and if this list were for hurricanes only, it would crack the top 10. So again, a lot of hurricanes, but not a lot of tropical storms pass by Key West. That's why Key West is not ranked higher, especially the other Florida Keys, which are ranked a little bit lower. Now, Miami is right below Key West at rank number 21, and they've been quiet as well since 2006. And the key thing to point out here is the quiet since 2006. If you notice, they get hit every 2.73 years, and it's been quiet since 2006. So if you add on 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, they should have been affected in 2009 if the averages panned out, but they were not affected last year. So now the threat increases for going into the 2010 Atlantic hurricane season for Miami, Florida, and Key West and a few other cities, which have not been affected since 2006. So that is part of the picks for my city and island threats, is return rates is one of the factors, and Miami and Key West are due right now. In fact, they might be a year overdue going into the 2010 season. Same goes with Fort Lauderdale, basically ditto that. Grenada down in the southeastern Caribbean Sea. Number 23, Stuart, Florida. Now, this is a very interesting area. Not Stuart, actually. Let me scroll down a little bit more. And then you got Palm Beach, number 25, Cozumel, number 6. Let me see. Okay, here I wanted to go all the way down here to Jupiter, Florida. Now, this is number 33 on the list. And the reason I'm picking out Jupiter, Florida here is, believe it or not, even though this is ranked all the way down at number 33, this is the most affected area by hurricanes in the entire Atlantic Basin. This area, Jupiter, Florida, gets more hurricane direct hits than anywhere else in the Atlantic Basin, and that includes the Grand Cayman area. That's the number 1 on the list. They've been affected 48 times since 1871, but what's interesting is they've been hit by 25 hurricanes since 1871. That's an average of 5.56 years between hurricane hits. Jupiter, Florida is hands down the most affected area by hurricane hits in the Atlantic Basin, which is just north. Jupiter, Florida is like equivalent to Lake Okeechobee in the state of Florida, maybe just slightly north of Lake Okeechobee towards the northern end of the lake. That is the most affected area by direct hurricane hits in all of the Atlantic Basin, Jupiter, Florida. And but they're ranked down here, like I said, 33, and they've been affected 48 times. But the moral of the story is, if the chances of a named storm are heading towards Jupiter, there's probably a better chance of this being a hurricane than there is of it being a tropical storm. So Jupiter, Florida really stands out for being impacted by hurricanes. Eleuthera Island, Bahamas. They had a quiet 2009 hurricane season. They're ranked number 34, and Eleuthera Island is also in one of the most affected areas for hurricane hits. Let me see. Eleuthera is ranked at, they would be ranked right around 28 or 29 if it was for hurricanes only. So they're right about where they should be, even for named storms, but Eleuthera Island is one of the most hit areas in the Bahamas by direct hurricane hits. Key Largo, Florida is ranked right below Eleuthera Island. They're ranked number 35. They get hit an average of every 2.90 years, and since 2006. But Key Largo, let's see, Key Largo for direct hurricane hits, I don't even think they're in the top 50 for direct hurricane hits. Let's see. Key Largo. Of course, I can't memorize all this stuff, folks, so. No, Key Largo is not in the top 50 when it comes to direct hurricane hits, but they are in the top 50 for named storms, period, ranked at number 35. Fort Walton Beach is right just east of Pensacola, Florida, up in the panhandle of Florida. They're ranked number 36, and they moved up 5 positions this year, believe it or not, due to Tropical Storm Claudette, which affected them early in the hurricane season. And they moved up 5 positions to number 36. And Fort Walton, Florida, would be ranked right around number 20. So they'd be ranked much higher than where they are now if it was for hurricane hits only. So here's another city that gets hit more by hurricanes than they do tropical storms overall. And they would be higher up on the list if it was only for hurricanes. Morgan City, Louisiana, southwest of New Orleans and well west of what's the other city that I had up there? Grand Isle, Louisiana. It's west of Grand Isle, Louisiana. Morgan City is ranked number 37. They get hit an average of every 2.96 years. They had a quiet 2009 hurricane season, but due to adjustments above and below, they stay about the same. But Morgan City does not. Here's another city that really, generally most of the cities in Louisiana, like New Orleans and Cameron, Louisiana, and Port Arthur, Texas, and areas around there, they don't get hit as often as the areas on the East Coast do. But Morgan City is not in the top 50 for direct hurricane hits. Port Arthur is. Port Arthur does crack the top 50 for direct hurricane hits, and they get hit an average of every 9.93 years by hurricanes. So Morgan City and areas around the West, they don't get hit by nearly as many